So hello and welcome back to Exploring Azeroth with Beryl and Onyx. And today, since we haven't seen her for a while, I figured we would start off with Onyx. And we're going to be exploring the Storm Peaks, which is a huge and full of all sorts of amazing places zone in Northrend. It's the home of the Titan Keepers and a lot of history. It's the place where a lot of players have a lot of amazingly good memories of raiding Ulduar, going to the Halls of Lightning, and all of those things. And for most of us, it all started here in K3. K3 is yet another goblin fortress, stronghold, whatever you want to call it. Here in the Storm Peaks, they came in here to loot the area of the Titan's treasure and ended up having a lot of issues with the locals. So you can come in here and give them a hand. Supposedly, there was a way, and I don't know if there still is, to get a free mount if you hadn't already gotten cold weather flying by the time you got to K3. I never knew about that. I kind of wish I would have. And like all other goblin areas, it also has, or at least I think it does. Maybe it doesn't. I was going to say that it also has, a little bank and auction house, but I'm not actually seeing one here. I feel like that's definitely something missing that's in almost every other little goblin town. But yeah, also very interestingly, K3 might have been inspired by the mountains in the Karakoram mountain range, which includes mountains that were originally named K1 to K5. K2 is the second highest mountain on Earth after Mount Everest, and you would think that they would give it a better name than just K2. So I always thought that was kind of interesting. Supposedly also, K3 could also be in reference to Joss Whedon's Serenity, but I wouldn't know about that because that's something I haven't actually seen. So when you're here in K3, you can go over here to Ricketts Folly, where you can see all of the explosions that have happened. Obviously, Ricketts Folly was blowing up his ship. And you'll run around here in the Snowblind Hills. Now, there's an achievement that I have never gotten for going here in the Spark Socket minefield and actually reaching Jenks. And even on a flying mount, I feel like you'll get blown, there we go, blown out of the water. It's a little annoying. I know that there's a way to do it, but I've just never had the patience to do it. You'll also be sent off to check out the mines, which are back here, and this is a huge cave system that is full of spiders and all sorts of kobolds, or snowblind diggers, as they're called here, but they're just kobolds. I don't think that they have candles on their heads, though. Nope, these poor kobolds just don't have... No, somebody took their candle. They do seem to have some sort of fire on their head, though, just not a candle. Anyway, you've got a lot of quests back here. It's also a really good place to mine Sartanite if you're a miner. And you'll rescue a lot of their people, and you can also help them hunt for mammoths. Of course, the way you hunt for mammoths in this area is with dynamite, because these are goblins, and of course you're going to be hunting with dynamite, because what else would you hunt with? And that is picked up over here from Torre Rumble Wrench. And after you finish all of the fighting and all of the things that they need you to do here in K3, you will learn that most of their men have been taken. And where they were taken and where you have to rescue them from is your next breadcrumb quest off into this zone. So the next place that you're going to be sent from K3 is up to Brunhilde Village. It's up above the Crystal Web Caverns. And what's really fun is after you've quested here, and I don't know if Onyx actually has, we'll see if she transforms. Nope. After you quest here, you actually become neutral to the Storm Maidens, and you take on their visage, which is kind of fun. You do a bunch of quests with them, which will then lead you on to the Storm Giants. But before you can do any of that, you have to kill a bunch of them and rescue all of these goblins who are being held up here, which then leads you to the one Brunhilde maiden who is neutral to you. She's up here in this mine. She's the one that will give you the visage so that you can then start doing quests with the Storm Maidens, which eventually will lead you over to the Storm Giants. And you also get to fight on bears in this village. It's a lot of fun. You get to try and become a Storm Maiden yourself, which is honestly a heck of a lot of fun. The other thing that's interesting about the Brunhilde village here is that they operate under a strict matriarchy. They think that men are good for absolutely nothing except for slave labor. And oh, it looks like I do have the visage. All right, well, Onyx is now a Storm Maiden. She is looking pretty darn substantial. But anyway, they figure that men are good for nothing but slave labor and breeding, and they send all of their men into the pits here to labor for them, and it's a very interesting little society. You get to help the maidens, and then later on, you know, you get to fight on, like I said, fight on bears. You get to fight on dragonback. It's a whole thing, and it's actually a lot of fun. Like, I always enjoyed the whole Brunhilde village thing, especially the Hildesmeet down here in the Pit of the Fang, where you're fighting on bareback, literally on bareback, and just having a grand old time. But all good things come to an end, and so now, oh, that just looks so ridiculous. Now we're gonna move on to the Frost Giants. I do have to laugh at Onyx in Brunhilde form on her poor little panther down below her, just looking so small and sad. So we're going to head over here to Dunniflum, which, if you've never done the Sons of Hodir questline, it's worthwhile to do. You start off hated with them. As you can see, Onyx is completely hated by them right now. But eventually, they do become friendly to you, and you can get the Traveler's Tundra mounts. I don't remember if you get the Grand Tundra mount that has seating for 3 on it, but it is where you can get several unique mounts. And as far as I know, you can only get them through the Sons of Hodir. It also explains a good chunk of lore for the area. Evidently, the Frost Giants have been in this area since the time of the Titans. You can go over here and see where they had a grand battle, and so many of them were frozen over here in Thunderfall. So evidently, Thunderfall tells of how ages ago, after Yogg-Saron corrupted him, the Keeper Loken killed his brother's wife Sif, and then tricked Thorum into believing that the king of the frost giants was responsible. Thorum then threw his hammer at the king of the frost giants, who was in the middle of a battle against a clan of frost dwarves, and killed him. Centuries later, during the Lich King's rule, Thorum discovered the truth of what had actually happened because of the player character, and he vowed to take the fight up against Loken and enlists us adventurers to help him make up for his past sins and regain the trust of the frost giants. And that is how you end up doing a whole bunch of dailies for the Sons of Hodir to actually get your reputation up with them and thus get the mounts. Now, not too far away from Thunderfall, up here on the top of this mountain, this is one of those zones that you really need a flag mount. In fact, the Alliance stronghold in this area you can only get to via a flying mount. But up here on the top of this mountain is Camp Tanuka Low. It's a small Tanuka village on the top of the mountain in the Storm Peaks up above Dunnifilim, with the Plain of Echoes just below us and the ruined Titan Temple of Life on the other side. It has been safe from Scourge attacks, though, thanks to its remote location, so that's always a good thing. There's not a heck of a lot here. I mean, there's definitely quests and things to do, but there's nothing really super notable that I know of. If you know of anything really, really super interesting about this area, let me know, because I'm always up to learn. I do like this guy, this Zarantar the Witness, and I'm pretty sure that he has a very in-depth quest chain, and I also just really like his hut because it looks like a really cool library, which I'm totally into. Now, as I mentioned before, right here on the Plain of Echoes, just outside of Camp Tanuka Low, is the Temple of Life, which is completely destroyed. It was the post of the Keeper Freya until Loken began his rebellion. These days, she's not here, and it's said that evidence indicates that there was a significant battle and that the opponent of Freyr was estimated to be similar size and strength to her. Probably Loken, although there's no clear indication of who Freya's opponent was. So, just kind of a little abandoned area, and you can see off in the distance some of the other Titan buildings that are not quite as destroyed. Now, just above the ruined Temple of Life is the Terrace of the Makers, which is a Titan area where the Sons of Loken are still fighting the Earthen to this day. And if I'm not completely mistaken, and I could be because it's been a hot minute since I've been up here fighting, I do believe that this is where one of the rare elites might be found, and that is the little gnome that you can kill, which is part of the Frostbitten achievement. It's also in this area that you, if you're an engineer, can get a bunch of really good Northrend plans. I do know that because I have an engineer who spent a lot of time up here farming for plans. I just honestly really love all of the Titan buildings and all of the art that was put into the Storm Peaks. It's absolutely beautiful. I know, at least for people who are into RP in World of Warcraft, I think just once a year there's a giant cross-realm party that is held up here in this area that is just, it's a lot of fun. I've only been to it a couple of times, but it's a lot of fun. So up here is the Terrace of Order, and like I said, all of this is Titan stuff. If you're a hunter, you definitely do know of going up to the highest part, which I think is this one up here ahead of me, where you can actually go and meet Thorim, and that is where hunters gain the pet Hati, who is Thorim's wolf, who you rescue with Titan Strike back in the Legion expansion, and thankfully you get to keep Hati if you take that talent anyway. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that this is Thorim's hangout. If not, well, then we'll get there eventually. But that looks like his throne up ahead, up here in the Temple of Storms. Yep, there's old Thorim. As you can see, the Titans are kind of big. Or Titan Keepers, I guess. And there he is.
What are you doing in the mountains?
Well, I'm just visiting you there, Thorim. What's up, my dude?
What brings you to the Temple of Storms?
Not a heck of a lot. Oops, now I'm inside you. That's a little bit creepy.
I am Thorim, Lord of Thunder.
And he's like, I'm not actually going to talk to you because you don't have any quests for me. But yes, that is Thorim, and this is also an area where when you're doing the Hide's quests, you get to do a quest where you are jumping from Frostdrake to Frostdrake. It's not as hard as it sounds, but it's a lot of fun. Alright, we're gonna head down here onto the Snowdrift Plains. And like I said, this is probably not going to be the most in-depth look at the Storm Peaks because there is just so much here. It's a really, really fun zone, and I really suggest that you come and do all of the quests here and really pay attention to them because they have a lot of lore to them. More lore than I can get into in just a video. But speaking of a lot of fun quests, you can come up here and quest with the Earthen. And it doesn't matter if you're Horde or Alliance, they welcome everybody equally, which is always kind of nice. Here at Boulder Crag's Refuge, where you can hang out with the Earthen, which I'm kind of assuming are pretty much like the playable race that we're going to be getting in the next expansion. Granted, we don't see any of the female versions here, but evidently in the next expansion we can have bearded dwarven females. Dwarves have never been my favorite race to play, but they are a cool race that I appreciate nonetheless. I also really like that this stable master has this earthen kitty cat as his pet, and I kind of love it. Now, like I said, there is so much more to the Storm Peaks. This is just a really, really quick and basic overview. But this was up here the culmination of most people's goals in the Storm Peaks, and that is this dungeon/raid complex where you have the Halls of Stone, you have the Halls of Lightning, and you had the ultimate goal of Ulduar, which I still remember. There is a really awesome, and I don't know if it still is in existence on YouTube, but I remember a Mashamania from back, probably during the Cataclysm era, that was all just completely dedicated to Ulduar. And they made up their own song and everything. It used a different, a already existing tune, so I guess it was a parody song, but it was pretty good. In fact, I'm pretty sure I still have it downloaded on my phone. So, goes to show you how much I liked it. It's funny, I was thinking about it today, how many World of Warcraft Mashamanias introduced me to different music that I probably never would have seen if it had not been for both AMVs and WoW Mashemanias. I mean, without them, I would not have discovered a couple different groups that I still love to this day. So, thank you, World of Warcraft, for also broadening my musical horizons. All right, one last spot with Onyx before we move on to Beryl and her only appearance in at least this episode. And that is the Grommash crash site, which, as you can see, is yet another crashed Horde Zeppelin. I swear, I don't know that if I were actually in the World of Warcraft that I would trust Goblin technology at all, considering how often we find crashed Zeppelins everywhere. Not a lot to it. It's a little questing hub. You can pick up all sorts of different little quests that I think are the ones that breadcrumb you on to ultimately Ulduar. So now we're going to switch things over, check in with Beryl, and go see the one exclusive Alliance area in the Storm Peaks. Alright, so here we are with Beryl in Frosthold. Frosthold is the home of the frostborne dwarves, which, as you can see, are basic dwarves with blue skin. They are native to Northrend, and they have some differences with their regular dwarven brethren, but they do welcome the Explorers League, which is always good. And interestingly enough, their king was Modern Bronzebeard, and I probably butchered his name, but he didn't know that because he had lost his memories. Later on, you help him recover his memories, and he makes a different one of the Frostborne. He installs Velog Icebellow in charge here after he leaves with his brother to go and take up his duties back in Ironforge. The Iceborne, or the Frostborne here, have a unique relationship with the Griffins, or the Eagles here. Kind of like the clans over in Airy Peak have with the Griffins, these guys have with their Eagles. It's kind of neat. So here is Jorg Stormheart, or, as we know him better, Modern Bronzebeard. And Beryl hasn't done the quest here, so he still doesn't have his memories back for her. But there's a whole long quest chain that you can do. And what's interesting about this particular area is it is completely inaccessible unless you have a flying mount. The only slight exceptions to that are you can get a breadcrumb quest in K3 that will send you via rocket up here, and supposedly there is a way that you can kind of death glitch your way to at least getting the achievement for exploring the Storm Peaks by dying in a very specific part down below, and then it will let you res a little bit higher. But other than that, it's your basic little Alliance city, town, campsite type deal. And the neat thing is, it's sort of implied that there's an entire city inside of this mountain that we just never get to see. I would love it if in the Midnight expansion that's coming, if maybe we could see a little bit more of that. I don't know if they're going to, if they're even going to revamp Northrend when they do the Midnight expansion. But if they do, that is something I would really love to see, because I absolutely adore exploration. It's my probably favorite thing in World of Warcraft. Well, That and basic questing, and obviously also setting myself on fire in giant bonfires like I just did there. But yeah, that is about it. Next week, we are going to be moving on to Zul'Darak. Possibly, I was going to say one of my favorite zones in this area, but that's only for one very specific quest line. Other than that, I kind of skip a lot of Zul'Darak when I'm just questing on my own, but still a very cool zone that we will go to next week nonetheless. So, until next time, thank you, as always, for joining me. Next week we will be journeying to Zul'Darak, and both Onyx and Beryl will probably be joining us. But until then, from me and Onyx and Beryl, have a great week. Say goodbye, Beryl.